Welcome to your deep dive. Today we're strapping in for a close look at the thrilling world of Formula One. Our focus, Carlos Sainz. Specifically, his current situation with the Williams team as they, power towards the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Right.
You've shared a fascinating collection of F1 blog posts with us, and we're going to really dissect them, trying to understand what makes Sainz tick right now.
Yeah, understand his performance, what to expect in Bahrain.
Exactly. It feels like we're trying to answer that big question. How's Sainz actually settling into this new chapter with Williams?
Absolutely. And these F1 blog posts, they offer some really compelling angles, don't they? We'll get insights into his mindset heading to Bahrain.
Okay.
His own analysis of the recent race in Japan and that really intriguing story about his involvement in Alex Albon's strategy.
Oh, yeah, the Australian Grand Prix one?
That's the one. And we'll touch on the championship standings, too, just for context, the bigger picture.
So our mission today is basically to dig into these sources, understand Sainz's current trajectory, the hurdles, the opportunities, all of it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's dive straight into Bahrain then. Reading through these posts, it's pretty clear Carlos Sainz is eager to get back on track there.
Yeah, he seems keen.
He's already turned laps in Bahrain during preseason testing with Williams alongside Albon. That gives him a bit of a head start, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no. It's maybe more nuanced than that. Familiarity is good, sure. But Sainz himself points out a critical difference, the conditions. He specifically notes the much hotter temperatures they'll face this race weekend.
Ah, right. Compared to testing.
Exactly. Much hotter.
Yeah.
And that's a significant departure from the cooler conditions of pre-CERN. It'll impact, well, everything. Car setup, tire management.
That's a great point. You can know the corners, the tarmac, but if the weather's totally different, yeah, it throws a lot of that prior data into question. Despite that, though, it seems Sainz is carrying some positive vibes from Japan. He mentions in one of these posts, many positive things to take away from last week. Now, finishing 14th. That might not immediately screen positives to everyone listening. What do you think he's actually referring to there?
That's the interesting layer, isn't it? Underneath the surface result. 14th isn't points, obviously.
Right.
But his comment suggests he's focusing on the underlying progress. Maybe he felt a better connection with the car's handling, or the team found some, encouraging setup directions, perhaps. And he follows that up, saying he's impatient and eager to start driving and have a good weekend in Bahrain. And that eagerness, it does suggest he feels they're building towards something.
Okay, so let's unpack that Japanese Grand Prix a bit more then. P14, like we said. But these F1 blog posts, they give us a peek behind that headline result.
Yeah, they do.
He felt he was very close to his teammate Albon's pace in qualifying, right?
Precisely. He highlights a tiny gap, just 0.053 seconds in Q2, like incredibly small. Albon qualified 10th, Sainz was 12th. Before his penalty, of course, as one post reminds us.
And what that really emphasizes is just the razor-thin margins in that midfield battle this year.
Oh, absolutely. Even a fraction of a second can mean several grid positions. It's brutal.
And as Sainz himself acknowledges in these posts, that starting position in such a tight midfield, it just makes a massive difference to your race outcome.
It really does. It's just so hard to fight your way through that pack if you're starting further back.
Exactly. But the posts also detail how Sainz did make progress during the race itself in Suzuka.
He mentions overtaking Hülkenberg twice, actually.
Right, and Duhan towards the end, too. He secured that P14 despite needing a late pit stop for softs.
Which shows he was actively fighting, making the most of the situation he was in, not just circulating.
It sounds like he's feeling like he's starting to sort of gel with the Williams FW47 now.
Yeah, that's the impression.
He talks about adjusting the setup and even like tweaking his own driving style to try and work around some of the car's weaknesses, especially for qualifying.
That tells you a lot about his approach, doesn't it? He's actively problem solving.
Yeah.
He's not just passively driving what he's given. He's analyzing his behavior, adapting himself to, extract the maximum performance he can.
And his belief that he actually matched Albon's pace in both qualifying and the race in Japan.
Which he states in the posts.
That's a significant internal benchmark for him, surely. That optimism about getting more competitive as he gets more seat time, it feels pretty genuine.
I think so, too. He seems convinced the potential is there.
He also touches on the ongoing development, doesn't he? Mentioning there's still much to test with the car setup.
Yeah, and that the team loses time in specific track conditions. Which is a good reminder, F1 is constant evolution, isn't it? Even mid-season.
Always learning, always tweaking.
Absolutely. And look, it's hard to ignore the contrast he draws himself in one of these posts between his own points tally,
which is currently just 1 point after 3 races and a sprint.
and Albon's 18 points. Albon's finished in the points in every event so far in 2025.
That's quite a disparity.
It is. And that likely fuels his determination, to unlock the car's potential and start getting those consistent points, finishes himself.
You'd think so. Now let's shift gears slightly because there's this really fascinating story highlighted in one of the F1 blog posts.
Ah, the Australia one.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz's involvement in Williams' race strategy during the Australian Grand Prix, where Albon finished, a fantastic 5th.
That's right, P5.
Given Sainz had that early retirement from the race. It's a pretty unusual insight into team dynamics, isn't it?
It really is, and it's quite a testament to his team spirit, I think, and his sharp racing mind.
How did it unfold again?
Well, the post recounts how, after he retired that incident after the safety car, he was watching the race from the pit box, and he spotted the approaching rain on the weather radar and got concerned.
Because he heard something different from the strategists?
Apparently, yeah. He overheard discussions suggesting the rain wouldn't be too significant, maybe light and brief.
But his read was different.
His own look at the radar told a different story. He believed it would be heavy enough to need a tire change. It's like having that extra pair of eyes, isn't it? A different perspective.
Literally.
And this is where his initiative really shines. He didn't just sit there. Sainz actually took it upon himself to go to the pit wall.
Really? Just went for it.
Yeah, got the attention of James Vowles, who then apparently allowed him to communicate his observations directly to the strategists.
Wow. What was his main point?
He emphasized that Albon, stuck in the car, focused on driving, wouldn't have the same detailed overview of the weather patterns that he could see on the monitors.
That makes sense. You're just reacting to what's on track in the cockpit.
Exactly. So he essentially urged the team, look, be ready to bring Albon in as soon as that rain properly hits, especially if you see the front runner starting to struggle.
That's great teamwork. Still contributing even when his own race is done.
It really is. And as the F1 blog post details, his instincts, they proved correct.
The rain came.
It did. During the final stage as the rain arrived, and Williams was among the first teams to react, pitting Albon for the right tires. Sainz must have felt pretty vindicated.
Although he apparently described feeling incredibly anxious during it all.
Yeah, the post mentions that, worried his call might actually be wrong.
It just shows the pressure, doesn't it? Even from the sidelines making those high-stakes calls.
Oh, absolutely. And the post captures that moment perfectly when the camera showed the McLaren struggling, going off track, prompting Sainz to apparently exclaim, box now, to the team.
Just a vivid little snapshot of the intensity, right?
Totally. He mentions a brief moment of doubt when not many others immediately pitted.
Oh, I bet. That would be nerve-wracking.
But then his concerns were eased when the rain really intensified, confirming his assessment. It really speaks to his awareness, his strategic thinking.
And the fact that Albon ultimately got that 5th place, partly thanks to Sainz's input.
Yeah, it definitely stands out, doesn't it? A memorable, kind of unique story from the early part of the season, as the post rightly points out.
Highlights that collaboration within the team, even between teammates chasing their own goals.
Exactly.
So, bringing our focus back to Bahrain now. This upcoming Grand Prix seems to hold, a particularly significant weight for Carlos Sainz.
It feels that way. One of the posts frames it as a key opportunity for him to really gauge his progress.
And why Bahrain specifically?
What makes Bahrain so crucial, so interesting, is that it's the first circuit this season where Sainz can directly compare the current performance of the Williams FW47 to the data they gathered during preseason testing, which, remember, was also held in Bahrain just 6 weeks ago.
Right, the direct comparison. And he was quick in testing, wasn't he?
Very. Interestingly, Sainz actually set the fastest overall time during those winter tests. He kept improving with each new set of tires.
That initial pace, it offers a tantalizing glimpse of the car's potential then.
It does. It's a really strong foundation to build on, potentially.
However, there's always a however. He does acknowledge in the posts that translating that testing pace to a race weekend, it'll have its own challenges.
Yeah, mainly due to that big difference between daytime practice sessions and the nighttime qualifying and race.
Track temps, ambient temps, all totally different.
Dramatically different. He correctly points out that the second free practice, FP2, on Friday night, That'll be particularly telling.
Because it mirrors the race and quality conditions.
Exactly. That session's their prime opportunity to get representative data, fine-tune the setup for the bits that really count.
And Sainz also mentions the car itself isn't exactly the same as it was in testing.
Right. It's undergone some evolution since then. He specifically notes updates to the front wing, adjustments to the overall setup.
So even with that baseline data from testing on the same track,
Yeah.
the target's moved a bit.
Precisely. He anticipates a different Bahrain experience because of those car developments and, of course, those much hotter temperatures. It won't be just, plug and play from the testing setup.
He clearly views this weekend as a personal challenge, expresses a strong desire to make real, tangible progress.
Yeah, he even refers to it in one post as a reset, a chance to start afresh with, 20 race weekends still ahead?
That really underscores his determined mindset, doesn't it? He's not letting the early results get him down.
Seems that way. Now, just to give everyone listening a clearer picture of where things stand overall, let's quickly touch on the current F1 World Championship standings.
Good idea. As reported in one of these F1 blog posts.
Leading the pack right now, maybe surprisingly to some, is Lando Norris. McLaren, 62 points.
Okay, solid start for him.
Hot on his heels, though, Max Verstappen. Red Bull, just 1 point behind on 61.
Wow, close at the top.
And rounding out the top three is Oscar Piastri, Norris's teammate at McLaren, with 49 points.
So McLaren looking very strong early on.
Definitely. Then we see Carlos Sainz's Williams teammate, Alex Albon. He's holding a really respectable 7th place with 18 points.
Which highlights his consistency, right? Yeah. Scoring in every event so far.
Exactly. And then Carlos Sainz himself, currently sitting in 15th place with that single point we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. That stark contrast with Albon really underscores the challenges he's faced in these opening races, despite feeling his underlying pace is improving.
It really puts it into perspective.
So after this deep dive into these F1 blog posts, what really stands out for me is this clear sense of anticipation and resolve around Carlos Sainz heading into Bahrain.
Yeah, determination definitely comes through.
He's actively learning, adapting to the Williams car, and he's finding positives even after a tough race like Japan.
And that story about his proactive involvement in Albon's strategy in Australia, that was particularly revealing, wasn't it? A unique glimpse into his team-oriented mentality, his racing instincts, even when his own day was over early.
True. And as we've discussed, Bahrain, it's just a really significant benchmark. That direct comparison to preseason on the same track.
It's a big test.
And while, the current championship standings don't yet reflect the potential he feels or the pace he believes he's unlocking.
No, not yet.
The narrative woven through these posts definitely paints a picture of a driver who's incredibly motivated. Motivated to contribute, to improve as the season goes on.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is that apparent disconnect between Sainz's expressed confidence in his base speed and the, undeniable reality of his current low points total.
Right. It leaves us with the key question, really, for everyone following along. How quickly can he bridge that gap?
Exactly. How quickly can he translate that perceived pace, that growing understanding of the Williams, into consistent, actual point-scoring finishes?
So as you tune into the Bahrain Grand Prix this weekend, definitely keep a close eye on Carlos Sainz, how he performs, especially relative to Albon, and within that super competitive midfield.
It promises to be a really crucial indicator, I think, for both him and the Williams team showing their progress as this 2025 season unfolds.